Hey everyone, and welcome to Read This Now, the weekly webcast where Brad Gustafson and I share two books that we love and we think you should read. When, Brad?
Right now.
Like, I know that's like supposed to be the garage door.
In my head, I was,
look like you
oh
coming out
God.
from under a
I'm like,
bed
this
or
is going to be
something.
the best garage door ever, but I feel like I froze because I'm like, dang, I should have had Jen hit the button again. But anyway, you got to read them now. That we don't open
That's
the
right.
garage for anybody, people, just for the
That's right.
books that we want you to read right now. So here's a couple of
Exactly.
things, Jen, that I've noticed just as I've started falling in love with reading more and being a little more active as a principal and talking to people, like even little things like sharing books I'm reading. Like people will reach out and say, hey, I noticed that book in the back of your Zoom. You should read this. You should check this book out.
Yeah.
And that is to me like gold and so awesome. So this book this week is actually from a principal friend who, just because she knew that I loved books, she reciprocated. How cool is that?
Yay.
So this is, I felt like love. I fell in love with this book. It's Be Strong by Pat Zietlow Miller, illustrated by Jenn Hill. And here's why you should read this book right now. It starts out kind of like with a classic understanding of strength. There's a little girl who sees someone on the climbing wall stronger than her, and she's just not feeling that strong. And it goes into different aspects of strength, but not in a cliche. I think I've read before, when you're writing a picture book, don't try to over teach kids because that's not necessarily fun either. What I love about the message in this book is it's so natural and authentic. It's not like teachy preachy. It's like genuine through a kid's eyes, how they're experiencing it in a way. Here's what I probably love most, in a way where I could see 20, 25 kids, however, 35, however many are in the room listening, actually silently learning and thinking and making connections. That's how powerful a book was. Like, and I think if I felt that when I read it, I think readers and other kiddos would too. So I just want to highlight, I marked, I think 2 pages I wanted to share. And here's a weird thing. They're not even the best pages, but they just stuck out to me. Okay. So
Sure.
it's not like the big time ammo, but I thought people would care about this. So this one I marked because it just had a personal connection to me. I'll just read it. Like Mama, I speak up. So speaking up is another way to be strong, right?
Sure.
When I see kids looking lonely at lunch, I want to help. I think of an idea. I tell my teacher, I tell the principal too. Then we make a special table so no one has to sit alone. Well,
I love
some
it.
kids say it's weird, but that doesn't stop us. And so that's such an organic thing that I know, just because I know our learners and kids here at our school, giving them ideas and reading a story like this, it would empower and in some ways give them permission, like, hey, I've thought about that. I've felt that way, or I've seen kids maybe who are alone. They would ask to start a table and just kind of do something like that. And yeah, some kids might say something or whatever, laugh, but imagine the difference it makes for the leaders who are being strong.
Sure.
So anyway, that, like I said, that wasn't like the most powerful page, but it resonated because I know some kids struggle with that. And there's lots of different things. The book also is artfully written. So it really is a master class on writing, how it comes full circle too. It's not just a series of different strengths and stuff. It really weaves together in a way where you're like, that was a good book. That was a good book. And I won't tell you everything that weaves together or how the beginning connects to the end or things like that. But the story is be strong. And that is why we opened the garage door this week, people. We're letting this book out, or maybe we're inviting you in to read it.
I love it. Will you hold up the cover one more time just so I can see the title? I mean, the author and illustrator again. That's great. Yay, that's awesome. And you know what? I feel like our books, again, are somewhat related, even though we don't ever plan this. It just sort of happens. I think there's like, if I ever, Dr. Gustafson, of course, already has his PhD, but if I ever did that, I think there's a thesis to be had or some research to be had in why it is that our books always seem connected in some way. I think there's something there, Brad. I really do.
Yeah, I know what it is. It's just you are wildly creative and smart, and you're able to salvage anything that I put on the table. And I have my EDD, not my PhD. So I know there'll be
Okay.
some real research buffs who really care about that distinction. So there you go.
Okay, well, you're still Dr. Gustafson to me. So that being said, Dr. G, I read a book this week that, I've actually read it quite a long time ago. I got the opportunity to see it as an ARC, but ARCs for graphic novels are often not full color. Like, you might get some few color pages in the front. And then after that, it's the black and white drawings, or even sometimes they're just partial drawings, or even sometimes pages come without the drawings at all. You just see like the words that are going to be there or whatever. And it was one of those instances where, like you, it was strongly recommended by a friend. And of course, we have those people in our lives who, when they share a book with us, we have to bump it up, our TV red pile. So I was excited for it to come out, and it came out, I think it was out actually a month or so ago, but I revisited it this week and wanted to share it because I just think it is such a special, special book. And I'm going to go ahead and reveal the cover. The title is Chunky, and it's by Yehudi Mercado. I wanted to make sure I get that right, who goes by Hudi. And it's actually a graphic novel memoir. So this is a true story about Yehudi and his experiences during one specific part of his life, right? And I'll just outline the story just very quickly. Like Yehudi, the author and illustrator, the character Yehudi in the book, who goes by Hudi, has experienced a number of health problems in his life. He actually had a really rare lung disease and bacteria that caused him to need to have almost one full lung removed when he was in elementary school. He missed like a year and a half of school, and he ended up having to repeat the first grade. And so after his surgery and after going back to school, he began to gain weight, and his parents were very nervous about his physical health and about the toll that maybe that extra weight might take on his one lung. And so their solution, because dad is like a world-class athlete, is to encourage him. And by encourage, I mean like force him to join sports, to join all sorts of different teams, to try to take off some of this weight. And really, this book is the journey of how he tries out all sorts of different sports, fails at all of them in really crazy, hilarious, but also sometimes painful to watch ways, painful literally and figuratively ways, in ways that are not only maybe physically hurtful, but also emotionally take a toll on him. And what we see at the very beginning of the story is, in order to cope with this, because you've got this poor kid who he wants to please his parents, he wants to do well in sports, but he also recognizes that that's not really what he wants out of life. Like, for example, at the beginning of the book, his room is full of posters that are like from Saturday Night Live and Back to the Future and that kind of stuff. But as he joins all these different sports teams, his posters are replaced with that sport. And he feels like he's being pushed to be somebody he's really not. To cope with all of that emotionally, he develops this imaginary friend named Chunky. And Chunky is actually, he calls him his imaginary mascot. Chunky is Hudi's biggest fan. And no matter what he does, Chunky's going to be there cheering him on as long as Yehudi remains or continues to be true to himself. It's when Yehudi goes astray and tries to be somebody he really isn't, that's when Chunky starts to question whether or not Yudi's on the right path. So this is what I love about this book. I mean, I listened to an interview with the author who said, I wanted to make this book funny because those were the kinds of books that I wanted as a kid. And he's like, I never wanted it to feel like a kid like was reading it for school, that they would read it, like they would laugh out loud, snort the milk out of their nose kind of thing. And I can tell you, mission accomplished. This book sort of reminded me a little bit of New Kid by Jerry Craft, because I don't know if you all remember in that book, one of the things I love so much about it is that there was all these Easter eggs in there for like adults or for older readers. So a kid who might pick up that book in the fourth grade would laugh and get so many things out of it in fourth grade, but then in fifth or sixth grade or eighth or ninth grade, or even as an adult, they would pick it up and look at it and still be laughing because they'd understand different things in it, right? And that was the same for Chunky. I want to just show you something really quickly about it. One of the things that I love about this book is that after every chapter, and every chapter is a new sport. So after every chapter, after he's had some humiliating, terrible experience, then there's a section in between each chapter, which is like, now, Brad, you're more of a sports fan than I am, but you know the like press conferences that teams will have after the game so that they can talk about their accomplishments, and there's like a sportscaster who's asking them questions. That happens after every chapter where Yehudi and Chunky give their recap of the game, and it's so funny. And one of the other things that they do is Yehudi and Chunky imagine these real things that have happened to Yehudi, but in more, I don't know, fantastical, fun ways. So they like imagine the big scar that he has on his back from his surgery is actually being from an action adventure film that they started in which he had to save the world, you know, that kind of thing. And here, this particular page was so fun to me. These were some of the potential movies that Yehudi and Chunky had starred in over time. Yehudi is both Latinx and Jewish, so he has this interesting family background. Like Yehudi and Chunky in Pizza Boy Summer, and Yehudi and Chunky in Hanukkah Cops and 8 Nights of Danger. It's just so fun. So I love this book so much. I want to show you the cover again. There's Chunky on Yehudi's back. It's by Yehudi Mercado. And I honestly think that this book will fly off the shelves for readers fourth grade or up. And I think you should read it right now.
It sounds absolutely incredible. Actually, I'm going to do an extra garage door just for that book, because that is worthy of its own parking space on the show. You had me from hello on graphic novel memoir. I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun. And then the way that it's presented, like with the press conferences in between and the different
presser, sports. I love that term. I love that you know that real term. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the sports conference, or the different sport per chapter. Golly, yes. That sounds like a home run there. I'm really doing.
Look at all this. I want to show you one of these presser chapters here. So give me a second to find it. Hang on. Throughout the book, you'll see that the narrator, whenever the narrator is speaking, he's got a mic because he's like the announcer of the game. So, but then here's like one of those post-game wrap-ups in between the chapters. You get a spread like this in between each chapter in which they sort of recap what's happened, and then they also sort of point to what might happen next. Like, what do you think that meant? I don't know. Let's find out. It's so fun. It's just so fun.
It sounds fun. It also, to me, sounds like genius, like an element of genius. Very cool.
It is great. Well, speaking of genius, let's talk about segues right here.
Yep.
Speaking of genius, I think the two of us had a stroke of genius when we created an archive of all of these shows and all the books that we've read. If people would like to get in on that goodness,
right. If they'd like to be in on the genius and help their friends connect to books that are amazing and open up garage spaces for them, they should go to bit.ly/read_this_now, and there it all is. It's all parked right there for you.
I love it. We're going to take this garage door metaphor as far as it can go, right?
I think we've hit a dead end on it. So thank you for tolerating it this long, but I'm having fun with it. So
me too. Thank you, everyone, and happy reading. We'll see you next week.